Hey, this video is to demonstrate how to do the second type of electrostatic force questions. That is, questions based on this formula. Fe equals K Q1 times Q2 divided by R squared. Now in the second type, these problems, they don't tell you quantities for the different charges or the distance between the squares. They're asking, how does the size of the force change if you change one or more of these quantities? So my suggestion for answering these is to do a kind of before and after. So before the change happens, we can assign some random numbers for these quantities. So I'm just going to say that the first charge, Q1, has a charge of 1. I'm just going to say that Q2 also has a charge of 1. And I'm going to say that the distance between these two objects has a distance of 1. You notice I'm not using any units, and I'm trying to keep it pretty simple. Now, in the formula, K never changes. So I can essentially kind of put that to the side for this type of problem. Okay? And then I can say to myself, if Fe is proportional to Q1 times Q2 divided by R squared, then I can just put in the numbers that I made up and say 1 times 1 over 1 squared. So what that tells me is that the electrostatic force is going to be a value of 1. Now I go to the question, and the first question on the part 2, the first question of the part 2 question says, what happens when I double the size of one charge? So what I would suggest is you do an after and say, okay, we have Q1 that has a charge of 1. And then it says that one of the two charges is doubled. So I start off with Q2 being a charge of 1. Now I'm going to say that Q2 is a charge of 2, because that's twice as big as 1, which is what the question asked for. Since that was the only change made, I'm going to keep my value for distance at 1 as well. So before my values were 1, 1, and 1, the question says change one of the charges to be twice as much as it was originally. So I changed the 1 to a 2, and I kept everything else the same. I'm going to solve the exact same way I did over here, except now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 1 for Q1, but I put in 2 for Q2. I divide by the distance squared, or 1 squared, and now I do the math. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 squared is still 1, so the resulting force is going to have a relative value of 2. Now I compare the original force to the final force, and I see that when I made the change in one of the two charges, that is when I doubled one of the charges, the force is doubled compared to what it originally was. So that means it's 2 times the original. If you're solving any of the other problems like this left side stays exactly the same. And all you're doing on this right side, this after side, is changing one or more of the variables, plugging them into this kind of sort of equation, but without units or the electrostatic constant, and then we're comparing the new found electrostatic force to what we originally had. Good luck. Email me with questions. Thanks.